on Goblin Reddit. Today's story is...
My sister forbade me to attend her wedding because I hadn't been an adult for 7 days. Now she's exploding because my wedding will be child-free and her secret plans have come to light. Hi everyone. I'm 26 and getting married in a year's time. I sent out the invitations last week, and since then I've had a lot of criticism from my sister and my parents. Before I explain the main problem, I need to tell you some important background information that is directly related to this situation. My sister Kayla, 31, and I have a rather complicated relationship. She can be extremely condescending and cruel, something I am still learning to deal with. I have always wanted to have a close relationship with her, but she has never reciprocated my feelings. Most of the time she has treated me like an unwanted nuisance, constantly seeking to distance herself from me. In my youth and naivety, I believed I could win her affection. I saw her as a role model and longed to build a good relationship as we grew up together. Kayla has always done things to get attention. That's her personality, and I accepted her as she was. Perhaps I had unrealistic expectations about our relationship. I think I finally woke up to reality when she told me I wasn't invited to her wedding. He explained that it would be an adults-only event, so I couldn't attend. The irony is that his wedding was scheduled just a week before my 18th birthday. I laughed and begged him to make an exception because the situation was frankly ridiculous. But it was no use, as he was determined to label me as a child. His venue had no age restrictions, and no alcohol was served. There was no valid reason for excluding me. I guess she just didn't want me there. Despite my pleas, I couldn't change her mind and she excluded me. My parents didn't intervene to mediate either. From that day on, I began to distance myself emotionally from my sister. Kayla either didn't realize it or didn't care. I'm inclined to think it was the latter. I currently have a very strange relationship with her, and I barely know her husband. We only see each other at family gatherings without any kind of one-to-one communication. She has 2 children, whom I love, although I don't have a close relationship with them either. Kayla has never made any effort to spend time with me alone or invite me to her house. My last attempt to get closer was when her children were born, but she ignored or dismissed my attempts. Eventually, I gave up and decided to concentrate on the family members who really value my presence in their lives. All this background will help you to better understand my current situation. I got engaged and we set a date with my fiancé. From the beginning, we agreed that we wanted a child-free wedding. We prepared the invitations and sent them to family and friends well in advance so that they could organize themselves. We clearly specified that the event would be exclusively for adults. Kayla also received her invitation. I was happy and moving forward with the preparations when something happened that motivated this publication. A few days ago, my sister called me and started yelling at me, saying that I must be joking. At first, I didn't understand what was happening, so I asked her to explain the problem. Between her anger, I understood that she was outraged because I would not allow children at my wedding. Can you believe it? The same woman who organized an adults-only wedding was upset that I was doing the same thing. I kept asking her if she was serious or if I had misunderstood something, but my sister furiously confirmed that my assumption was correct. She really disliked the fact that I was excluding children from the celebration. I explained that it was my wedding, and therefore I decided how I wanted to organize it. I made it clear that we didn't want children at the event. My sister was completely furious with me, calling me immature and self-centered for excluding my innocent nephews from the wedding. I calmly replied that most of the children are under 5 years old, so they would hardly remember the event. Besides, we didn't want children running around and accidentally touching things, not to mention that there would be an open bar with plenty of alcohol. All relatives with children have babies or young children, and we know that young children cannot be completely controlled. Children behave like children, and instead of dealing with possible inconveniences, I preferred to avoid the problem from the start. Apparently, that was the worst thing I could have said, because then my sister accused me of calling her children difficult and uncontrollable. I made it clear that I never said such a thing. Kayla's response was that then her children should be invited since they would not cause problems like the rest of the children. I told her that I would not make exceptions like that because then everyone would want to bring their children and I would be accused of favoritism. I have cousins and very close friends who would be offended if I allowed Kayla's children to attend while theirs were not allowed. I explained all this in detail, but she refused to accept it. I reached a point where I felt completely frustrated and told her that she had no right to be angry with me when she herself had organized an adults-only wedding. I reminded her how she didn't even allow me to attend her own sister just a week away from turning 18. I was excluding young children, while she had excluded her sister who was about to come of age. My sister didn't like hearing that. She started shouting at me again, saying that now I understood the real reason why she didn't want children at my wedding. She was being petty, vindictive, and immature because of something in the past. She called me an unbalanced sister and said she couldn't believe I was deliberately doing this to get back at her. I was about to explain to her that this had nothing to do with her when she hung up the phone. I didn't bother to contact her again, so there has been complete silence on my part. However, my sister has been sending me messages incessantly with all kinds of insults. She has also involved my parents, who now also call me constantly. My parents tell me that this adults-only policy is probably not a good idea and that I shouldn't be so cruel by excluding my own nephews. Yes, the same parents who agree that I shouldn't attend my sister's wedding. They also insist that I shouldn't damage my relationship with my sister when I would only have to accept a small request from her. I don't understand how they can consider this a request, let alone a small one. Now I'm angry with my parents too. I spoke to my fiancé, and he doesn't want to make any exceptions either, as it would also cause problems with the guests on his side. In fact, he is extremely annoyed with my sister and my parents for trying to put pressure on me. They know what my sister did at her wedding, so it bothers him that they are criticizing me for doing exactly the same thing. He doesn't want children at the wedding, and his family completely agrees. So my fiancé totally supports me and would even prefer that my sister not attend at all. They are also trying to emotionally blackmail me, which is not funny. I love my nieces and nephews, even if we're not close, but the wedding rules are clear to everyone. I'm already considering eloping and would have done so if it weren't for my fiancé's family. They've done nothing wrong, so I don't want them to miss their son's big day. But this family stress is making me question whether I should invite them all. First edition. I am receiving too many comments, and it is impossible to reply to everyone. I am going to address some issues in this edition. I will include more information in a more detailed update. This one is just to answer frequently asked questions. I knew that some would judge me for having an adults-only wedding. Honestly, I don't see anything wrong with my request. If I had teenage cousins, I would have included them, but all the minors in the family are under 5 years old. Also, don't pretend that children can't cause inconvenience. There's also the fact that weddings are long and boring events for children. None of them would really enjoy themselves. Sending them home after the ceremony would be discourteous and would make them feel worse. That's why I don't want to include them in any part of the celebration. They also wanted to know what my sister said after confronting her about her hypocrisy. Well, she had some pretty twisted logic to defend her position. She argued that at the time of her wedding, no one had children, so it made sense that it was for adults only. But now that most of my cousins have children, I should include them in the party. I now realize that I probably would have been the only underage guest at Kayla's wedding. None of her friends were married so young, and none of our cousins had children at the time. I was the youngest member of the family, but she still didn't make an exception for me. I'm starting to wonder why my parents let her do what she wanted, and now they're having problems with my decision. In fact, I begged them to convince Kayla to invite me, but my parents simply replied that it was their wedding, and they had no opinion on the matter, which I find quite ironic now. Also, there have been questions about the opinion of other cousins and friends regarding my adults-only wedding. They have not expressed any objections. Everyone supports me. They live nearby and are already organizing to hire babysitters. I'm giving them literally a year's notice, so they have plenty of time to make the necessary arrangements. I think some of them are even secretly happy to have a day free from parental responsibilities without feeling guilty. I'm offering them the chance to relax and have fun instead of having to keep an eye on their children throughout the event. Update 1. Although I have received mixed feedback, most of the criticism came from people who hate adults-only weddings. I don't understand why some people think their children should go everywhere. Do they go to adults-only places and demand to take their children too? I just don't understand that logic. People with that mentality are precisely the reason why many couples opt for child-free weddings. Children can cause inconvenience, it's a fact. Getting angry with them would be unfair because they are children, so the simple solution is not to include them in the event. It's not that I hate children or that I make this decision because I don't want to have children, which is not true, but I have already explained my reasons. Besides, those children will hardly remember the wedding and will probably get very bored during the ceremony. Do you know what bored children do during ceremonies? Stop acting as if children deserve to be at all events. You are no better than my sister with that attitude. And some try to apply reverse psychology to me, telling me that I shouldn't complain that my sister didn't invite me to her wedding using the same logic. Well, I was about to turn 18, and I knew wedding etiquette perfectly well. I had been to several since I was 14. Not once did I misbehave or cause trouble, because I was old enough to control myself completely. If there were teenagers in the family, I would have invited them. Again, the children I am excluding are under 5 years old. I just wanted to offer my perspective because I'm not going to keep responding to nasty comments. I thank everyone who contacted me with good advice. They asked important questions, especially about how my sister creates drama to be the center of attention. Perhaps they are not so far from the truth. My sister hates being a sister. She never wanted me as a sibling and hates sharing the attention. I think my parents felt somewhat guilty about having another child when she didn't agree, so they tend to take her side and ask me to make concessions. At least that's what I think. My sister has made dramatic scenes at important moments in my life, and I think she intentionally chose a date close to my 18th birthday because she wanted everyone to talk about her and not me. The 18th birthday is very significant in my family and is celebrated especially. I couldn't have a big celebration because everyone was exhausted after her wedding and my parents had spent a lot of money. My sister hogged all the attention during her wedding. She announced her first pregnancy on my 21st birthday and her second pregnancy shortly after I got my first full-time job. Clearly there is a pattern to her behavior. I hadn't thought about this before, but some of the comments really made me reflect. Maybe my sister is trying to cause trouble so that some of the attention is directed towards her. I'm pretty tired of her attitude at the moment. Some suggested that I consider withdrawing her invitation. And yes, it is a valid option that my fiancé and I are considering. The only drawback would be my parents, who would be horrified if I didn't invite their favorite daughter. And then there is the risk that this could create a cascade of family problems, with more relatives getting involved. But yes, we are evaluating that possibility. My parents are insisting on organizing a family meeting to resolve this issue and move forward. I don't know if it will really solve anything, but maybe I'll attend anyway. They want my sister and I to meet with them, face to face, to discuss everything as a family under the same roof. They are quite confident that we will reach a good agreement. I'm sorry to be the one to dash their hopes, because I'm not going to change my plans. It's my wedding. If they continue to make these demands at the meeting, I'll probably take the opportunity to formally withdraw the invitation. Update 2. I've just returned from the family meeting. My parents were confident that we would reach an agreement, but nothing went as they expected. My sister absolutely refused to give in, and neither did I. She kept berating and yelling at me for daring to exclude her precious children from the wedding. What I find funny is that she doesn't really care about her children. They are just her tool to ruin my wedding and get attention, being the only one with children. Most likely, during the wedding, she would have let them do whatever they wanted without proper supervision. I tried to explain my position again, but she wasn't willing to listen. At least my parents seemed to feel somewhat uncomfortable with the situation, as I behaved civilly while my sister shouted, although it's not as if my sister paid any attention to them either. I firmly told her that neither her shouting nor her attempts to make me feel guilty would change my decision. It had already been made. She then suggested that I should find and pay for babysitters, arguing that since it was my whim, I should bear the cost. I replied that this was not going to happen because I did not consider it my responsibility. My sister is perfectly capable of paying for a babysitter. I know she hires them occasionally for her nights out on the town, but she refused to do so for my wedding because, according to her, it wasn't her decision to exclude her children. I made it clear to her that I wouldn't pay for a babysitter just because she demanded it. Our budget was already tight, and my fiancé wouldn't approve of the expense either. Kayla then started complaining about how difficult it was to find a babysitter this quickly and that the least she could do was pay for it. I laughed and reminded her that she had a whole year to organize, so unless she was extremely slow, she had more than enough time to plan. My parents then offered to pay for the babysitter, but Kayla refused their money. Yes, she was being really mean. She wanted me to pay for not considering her feelings about my wedding. My parents also suggested that Kayla's husband could stay at home with the children while she attended the wedding. My sister didn't like that idea at all. After what seemed like an eternity, I couldn't bear the conversation any longer. I was mentally exhausted, and my sister's tantrums had worn me down. I told her straight that I wasn't going to change my wedding plans for her, and if she was that bothered, she didn't have to come. My sister then shouted even louder at me, and my parents backed her up. They told me I should be wishing my sister was at the wedding. I laughed slightly and told everyone that if they had a problem with my wedding, my rules, and how we wanted our celebration to be, then they were all welcome to leave. I am now back home and have told my fiancé what has happened. He is even more infuriated than before by the demanding attitude my parents are showing. They and my sister continue to bombard my phone with messages, but I have not yet checked any of them. Update 3. Before this update, let me tell you that you have no idea how much your kind comments have helped me. I was so overwhelmed by everything that I felt like my wedding was already ruined. I haven't even started planning it properly, but the problems were already increasing exponentially. I felt extremely unmotivated and had lost all the excitement. The whole preparation process was overshadowed by my sister's irrational behavior. I came very close to eloping with my fiancé and was about to suggest that he let his family know, but her comments were an eye-opener. They were right in telling me that I shouldn't punish my friends and extended family, as they hadn't done anything wrong. They also pointed out that my sister was already making everything revolve around her and had probably managed to hog the limelight. It was like a revelation. My sister was already ruining my wedding, and I was allowing it. I reflected on all this and decided to have a heart-to-heart with my parents. I also brought my fiancé along for support, as he also wanted to express his opinion to them. We had the meeting without my sister because I wanted to talk to my parents in private. You have been quite critical of my parents' role in this conflict, and you are right. I am angry with them, but I thought a conversation without my sisters shouting could be productive. We talked for a long time, and I really expressed all my feelings. It was not a calm discussion at all. I was crying, my parents too. It was a very emotional moment. This time I didn't hold back. I listed all the times Kayla ruined my special moments and stole my limelight. I reminded them how they refused to persuade Kayla to include me in her wedding, so they had no right to ask me to include their children. I revealed everything I was feeling and even told them that they were making me consider canceling all the plans and eloping. I think my parents were deeply affected to learn that I wanted to elope simply because I was so tired of planning my own wedding. My fiancé also intervened, saying that he supported the idea of eloping, as all this drama was making me reject the idea of a big celebration. My mother cried, and my father began to desperately beg me not to do that. They were very sorry, and both acknowledged their role and how my sister had been intentionally attacking me all these years. I was right in assuming that they tended to favor Kayla because she has always reproached them for having given her a sister and forcing her to share everything with me. The level of jealousy and selfishness that my sister has is simply unbelievable. I'm completely fed up with her. I had an extensive conversation with my parents, and my fiancé also shared his thoughts, which was really helpful. He provided an outside perspective that helped my parents realize how extremely unfair they were being to me. They begged us not to elope because they didn't want to miss my wedding. Interestingly, they also mentioned that they wanted to fully enjoy my wedding, as they spent most of my other achievements trying to calm Kayla down or celebrating her achievements instead of mine. I've already told you how Kayla always found a way to ruin my special moments, and my parents also seem to have had enough of that behavior. Thank God they finally understood me and have promised to improve their attitude. As for my sister, I no longer care what she thinks. I'm going to write a letter soon cutting off all contact with her, and I'm also going to withdraw her invitation to the wedding. My fiancé and I have already made our decision, and my parents now agree. Kayla may be my sister, but she is the one who should make sacrifices to attend my wedding, not I to please her. I'm not inviting royalty, but an egocentric person who just lost her invitation. Update 4. Many have been sending me messages asking what happened, expecting some additional drama. Yes, There has been some commotion from my sister after I communicated my decisions to her, but things are pretty calm for me now. That is, I anticipated that she would cause problems, but this time, she was more affected than I was. You may want to know how my sister ended up suffering the consequences, which is why I came back with this update. Preview: my sister is now experiencing marital problems. As promised, I wrote and sent a text message and an email to my sister, informing her that she was officially disinvited and that I would not be in contact with her for an indefinite period of time. I explained that I didn't want any more drama from her and that I was completely exhausted by her tantrums. I sent the email and, as expected, she exploded again. What surprised me was that she was offended when I uninvited her and cut off all communication. I thought she would be satisfied, as she never wanted me in her life, but she was outraged. She went to complain to my parents because I wasn't responding to her messages. She was very surprised when my parents supported me instead of her. She then decided to tell the rest of the family that I was excluding her for no reason, presenting me as a selfish, jealous, and evil person. Initially, some relatives wrote to me, suggesting that I fix things and be understanding towards her, but then one of my cousins revealed shocking information in the group chat. According to my cousin, my sister was upset about being uninvited because she had planned something to steal the spotlight from me. My cousin told us that Kayla was actively trying to convince her husband to have a third child with the intention of appearing pregnant or announcing her pregnancy during my wedding. It seems that my sister has more serious problems than I imagined. She had shared her plans with my cousin after my engagement. Kayla had even proudly declared that she was going to humiliate me at my own wedding and hog all the attention as always. I won't go into specific details, but this shows that Kayla is obsessed with the competition between us. There is no such rivalry on my part, but she has always seen me as a competitor. She was furious when she realized that she would never have the opportunity to outshine me because I had cut off all contact with her. Imagine how out of control everything got after my cousin revealed this information. In short, everyone thinks she has lost her mind, and my own parents are extremely angry with her. Surprisingly, Kayla did not deny anything, but tried to justify her actions. I think that made the situation worse, because her husband did not like her behavior at all. From what my parents tell me, he completely disapproved of Kayla pushing for a third child just to ruin my wedding. Apparently, she had also shown competitive behavior towards her husband's sister and other women in her family, so her in-laws were already upset with her. This revelation was the last straw for him, who warned her to seek professional help or face divorce. Kayla went home to our parents crying and blamed me for ruining her marriage out of jealousy. Yes, apparently this is also my fault. She tried to call and yell at me from an unknown number, but I hung up immediately when I recognized her voice. Fortunately, she stopped her outburst within a few days because her husband began to get seriously angry. They are currently attending couples therapy while he sleeps in a separate room. I'm pretty sure he's staying in the relationship mainly for the children's sake. He had already been upset for some time because Kayla's attitudes had deteriorated his relationship with his own family members. I hope that this time Kayla takes things seriously and finally works on herself. As for me, it looks like I will have a peaceful and conflict-free wedding after all. Update 5. I already had my wedding. I can't believe it's been a year since I posted here, but time flies when you're planning a wedding while taking care of all the other responsibilities in life. It seemed like an eternity, and now I'm married. But before I delete this post for not updating my story, let me tell you what has happened to my sister, including what she tried to do on my wedding day. My sister is officially divorced, although she and her husband tried for a while. Her ex-husband spoke to my parents after the divorce to explain his side of the story. He said he really did try, but my sister is extremely difficult to deal with. Not only did she not make an effort to make the therapy work, she made things even more complicated. She even threatened him, saying that if he left her, she would try to get involved with all his friends. That was what finally brought about the divorce. But then there's what she tried to do on my wedding day. First, she slashed the tires of my parents' car in the morning so they couldn't attend, but they asked a relative to take them. They knew it was her because the neighbors caught my sister on the security cameras. It could have been anyone, of course, but witnesses confirmed her identity. Then, during the ceremony, someone made a false threat call and we had to evacuate the venue and wait 2 hours before returning to continue. But it didn't matter too much because the celebration went ahead, and apart from that incident, I don't think the experience was ruined. The important thing is that we got married, and all the guests had a great time. We even invited my sister's ex-husband, at my parents' insistence. They wanted to maintain a good relationship with him for the sake of their grandchildren, so they asked me to include him. We agreed to do it, and since it was my sister's turn to look after the children that day, she didn't even have to hire a babysitter. It's possible that my sister tried to sabotage the wedding because we invited her ex-husband, but according to him, she wasn't aware because she didn't tell him about her plans after the divorce. I didn't consider it necessary to inform him about her personal activities. During the reception, I noticed that she was chatting a lot with one of my friends, but when I asked her about it later, she assured me that they were just talking. She's not cheating on me. I can tell the difference between when two people are just chatting and when there's something more going on. Who knows? Maybe the wedding will lead to a new relationship in the future. Addition. My friend can't hide anything from me. I clearly recognize what I saw. In fact, she just confessed to me that my sister's ex-husband has asked her out on a date. I would find it quite funny if in a few years I attend the wedding between my ex-brother-in-law and my friend, especially considering that I couldn't attend the ceremony when she married my sister.